more you pay. And I mentioned in Velo Francadasti, what they have there is a little chip in the residual container. And each time the container is put out, you're charged so much, but you don't have to keep putting it out. Some people put it out 3 times a week, other people only put it once a week, once a month. But the power is in your hands. And if you're worried about fly tipping because of that strategy, don't. Because if you lay on if you're laying on the reuse and the repair and the household hazardous waste collection and also the composting, recycling and so on, then you've given people lots of options. And it becomes more effort to do the bad thing than to do the good thing. And besides, don't underestimate people. Most people have good intentions and want to help the planet and want to have a planet for their kids to live in later on. So now we've used a series of strategies, waste reduction initiatives, a lot of reduction in the reuse and repair and the deconstruction and the pay-by-bag system. Now we're down to the residuals. And this is the big difference between the current plan and the zero waste plan, because the current plan would make the residuals disappear. And that's very attractive for the throwaway industry, the plastics industry, and for politicians who don't want to do too much work. It's a lazy solution to make the residuals disappear. But in terms of reaching sustainability, those residuals are our mistake. They're bad industrial design, they're bad purchasing habits. We need to recognize our mistakes and change them if we're going to move towards sustainability. So that's step number 8 then, is the building of a residual separation and research facility. These facilities are built at the entrance to the landfill. No waste can go directly into the landfill that has not been separated and screened. And this is a way of keeping out a lot of the toxics and illicit material. More material can be recycled, especially the bulky items like the cardboard, bits of metal and so on. Toxics can be removed and identified, and the dirty organics are biologically stabilized before they go to the landfill. And the non-recyclable materials are studied. So we need to put into... Everything on that page, incidentally, is happening in Nova Scotia. They've built these facilities in front of their landfills. And the dirty organic fraction is not touched. It goes onto conveyor belts. Everything goes onto conveyor belts. And the dirty organic fraction is not touched. It goes right to the end, and then it's shredded and goes through a second composting operation. Again, not to sell it because it's dirty, but to stabilize it above ground before it causes problems like creating leachate and methane underground. And that's what they're doing in Nova Scotia, and they seem to be quite happy with it. But what I've been advocating for many years now is the introduction into this system of the research center, and which could be manned by your local university, or in your case, technical college. But you need professors, you need engineers, you need economists, you need people interested in advertising, industrial design, people that are interested in sustainability, which is everybody. We need everybody here, even poets and playwrights and musicians and teachers. Everybody has a role to play in this. But no, I'm serious, because one of the things, you have to change your mindset. We've been conditioned to thinking that we need to consume all these things to be happy. And we need our philosophers and our novelists and our poets to change those attitudes. So everybody can be involved in this research center. The tasks. One is to make sure you've maximized what you're doing. So you're going to find that there are reusable, recyclable, and compostable items will appear. And you'll say, well, you know, we actually have facilities to handle this material. We need to do a better job of educating people because some people are not doing it. We need some incentives maybe. Recommend improved waste avoidance strategies for local citizens and businesses. This, if you're doing research, it means you have the time to collect the best practices from around the world. And we can link the zero waste research centers around the world. So we're just, very quickly with internet accumulating all these good ideas. Develop local uses for some materials. For example, shredded newspapers can be used for cattle bedding. Newspapers can be made into paper mache and used to produce the shells for hamburgers and things and Chinese takeaway food instead of that dreadful styrofoam that should be banned from the face of the earth. Recommend better industrial design to industry on packaging and products, and also research for clean production. We're using a lot of toxics that we shouldn't be using: cadmium, mercury, arsenic, etc., in batteries, solvents, and so on, and we need to get those out of the waste stream. And this is where we can link up with industry in a big, big way. Non-recyclable material. Can it be avoided? That's the first question. Second question, can it be used locally if there's no market for it, recyclables? Thirdly, can it be redesigned? And so the kind of things we're going to be looking at, particularly plastics, a lot of plastics would end up in the residual screening. Composites, things which are made of plastic, paper, and aluminum, like the Tetra Paks. Household toxics, we need to very carefully segregate those. It's only about 1% of the household waste stream is toxic, but that 1% haunts us. It haunts us in landfills and incinerators, and it's going to haunt us too in zero waste unless we sequester it, look after it very carefully. And as I mentioned, the dirty organic fraction can be looked at very carefully, and things like diapers can be replaced, we hope. So this is where the Residual Separation Research Centre is where we link community responsibility to industrial responsibility, where we capture the high moral ground and start pointing the fingers at corporations. And the message is, before that message, with the zero waste strategy, we convert 3 tons of trash into 1 ton of compostables, 1 ton of recyclables, and 1 ton of education for sustainability. We're educating ourselves, we're educating our kids, we're educating our communities, we're educating our politicians, we're educating our industries, we're educating our university students and professors. There's a lot of education in this separation strategy. The message to industry: if we can't reuse it, recycle it, or compost it, you shouldn't be making it. That's the message for the 21st century. We need better industrial design for the 21st century. Again, waste is a design problem. We have a waste problem because we don't do what nature does, which is to have feedback mechanisms. If you take biochemistry, you quickly learn that chemicals in the body are produced in a series of metabolic steps. And if at some point in your life you're not using one of the chemicals at the end of these pathways, then that chemical itself switches off the first step in the pathway, and it no longer produces it. That's called a feedback mechanism. And what we're talking about here with the research center is introducing feedback mechanisms. If there are things that we cannot handle, we've got to switch off their production. And as I say, that's going to take longer than the community responsibility, which we can get very quickly. And we need to design for sustainability. So 2 models for the treatment of the residuals. One model is the incinerator with a toxic ash landfill. The other model is a residual separation facility, plus the Zero Waste Research Center, plus an interim landfill for stabilized dirty organic fraction. And don't forget that that Zero Waste Research Center is the feedback for waste reduction in the community and better industrial design. Residual separation research facilities. Progress report. I've told you, Nova Scotia already has the residual separation facilities. That's on one of my videos, which you can find on the website. January 23rd, we had a national conference in Italy where the first Zero Waste Research Center was announced. Nothing too grandiose. At the moment, it's just an office in the municipal building, but it will have its computer and its staff, and they will start to do this research. And I've just come back from Sicily where there are 2 waste companies now that are building resource recovery parks, and we think we've persuaded them to introduce into those parks residual separation and research facilities. That was just a few days ago. We had conversations with those 2 waste companies. And we had a wonderful meeting in Coventry where we had professors from the University of Warwick, professors from the University of Coventry, local industrialists, engineers who are interested in sustainability, activists who are fighting the incinerator in Coventry, and also activists fighting the cement kiln in Rugby.